you have gone through coalition training, this diagram looks familiar to you, right? It is a logic model diagram, right? And in it, you're going to look at what are the licensed outlets in your community, right? Where is beer sold? Where is alcohol sold? Where is tobacco sold? In my case, where is marijuana sold, right?
Mm.
And if are they, if they're legal sales, what do those laws look like? Who can purchase alcohol, right? Co-workers, friends, family members, strangers. So, we know for the most part, retailers in general follow the law, right? The point of access is mostly older siblings, people who are of age able to buy it, access through parents and friends, right? So on this, you see that next row, there is looking at the two access points. The first one is the retailer, right? Illegal and legal sales. So when you start to think about what you're going to do in your community, you need to think about how are you going to create interventions and programs to make sure the retailers know the law, right? And that those are in violation, that is enforced. And then you also have to look at the social availability, right? So we know that 17-year-olds, they hang out with 21-year-olds, right? So, you got to think about those things, underage individuals and other i- underage individuals, especially with COVID going on now, right? We have to adapt our thinking, thinking about, all right, if students have more time at home, who's the monitor in the house? What gates, what barriers, what safety precautions can you put in place to make sure they don't have access to that pool, so to speak, right? Unless there's a monitor there, right? And that they have the information to make good decisions for themselves, and that we're teaching those skills also. Next slide.
And remember, you all, real quickly, Minu, is that when I talked about the essentials we got to have for camp, this is an example of that logic model that Minu is talking about here as it relates to that.
All right, here's my last slide. I'm gonna turn it back over to Tracy. So, on the public end, when we're talking about reducing commercial access, we talk about compliance checks. Those can be by law enforcement, or they can be, by civilians. That's, we call them civilian compliance checks. All across the United States, the Food and Drug Administration administers compliance checks of tobacco. And if you go to fda.gov, you can pull down an inspection report and see all of the stores that had a violation in your community, what that civil penalty amount was, what other action was taken, and use that to, give them additional education, right? So it's a hefty fine. It starts with a warning letter, but it goes all the way up to $11,500 last time I checked. Banning home delivery. Yes, that has to happen. Oh my God. In Detroit, we're over flooded now there.
That's another thing. Okay, there you go. Yep.
Home delivery, minimum age of the seller, right? So we know clerk turnover is really high. What's the minimum age of the sellers in your community for alcohol and tobacco? And then on the institutional side, you could do server trainings, ID checks, incentives for checking IDs, right? Secret shoppers, and post warning signs, and provide policies to store owners and clerks. Remember, most retailers are good. We want to make sure that they have the tools that they need, and that we provide them with a level playing field to cancel out those retailers that don't want to follow the law. Back to you, Tracy.
Okay, so one of the things also under this is we're talking about strategy for reducing social access. They can be in both a framework of public and institutional,
Mhm.
from keg registrations to restrictions in public places to community events. Those are some awesome strategies for access and availability. On the institutional side, maybe there's some school educational college policies in place. There's some issues that if you do something wrong illegally, that maybe we need to arrest you for having access to where you don't belong. Maybe you have lock up alcohol in your homes. Maybe you distribute warning flyers about things. Maybe you restrict sales when underage alcohol is existing. Maybe you restrict ages of room renters. We don't want any kids under the age of 21 here because we don't want drinking here in our apartments or in our hotels. Or you restrict somewhere where alcohol can be sold at maybe athletic events and sporting events and any other kind of events. So that's important.
Tracy, I like for them to just quickly in the chat because we got a nice list here.
Yeah,
If you know of any of these strategies that are used in your community, just why don't you go ahead and quickly type a couple in the chat.
awesome. That's a great idea.
And if you can't think of any, that just means we got some research and our work cut out for us, right?
Right, right.
I see Scott typing something.
Lights, yes.
Lights. Yep.
You don't know how
Tracy
important having
mentioned
those
something.
lights is critical.
Yes. The Leo activities of Belafonte. Heather, what is that? The Leo activities of Belafonte.
I think he's talking about the Lions Club.
Oh, Lions Club. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that right?
Compliance check.
Is that,
Okay, you
yeah,
guys got compliance checks. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, can I just interject for 1 second?
Of course.
Only because we have so many different groups in this community. And I just wanted an observation is as I'm looking at this, I hope that everyone in your own field is thinking along those prevention lines.
Say that.
And also, not what I'm seeing here is a whole bunch of ways of reducing access, but I always look at the flip side. And for someone like, let's say, Brittany Powell at the Delaware Contemporary, if we're trying to get more people into the contemporary, into art, can we look at these same ways of reducing access and flip them over into increasing access, like
Yes.
creating an ID card for artists, training them
Yes.
what they're looking for in the arts. And so I'm just hoping that everyone is seeing all of what Tracy and Minu are doing through the lens of your
Yes.
part of prevention, not the greater one. So thanks for letting me
Awesome.
just bring that.
Awesome. Say awesome thoughts there, Scott. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. Also, we've seen shifts in policies and practices, from merchants, you know, they have they learn how to their policy manual development. They do server trainers now. One of the greatest things is the best things that's happened is that they're training bartenders on when not to serve too much alcohol, or people who are selling to minors for tobacco, or even now marijuana, you know. Someone had a question. Yes, how can we reduce threshold fear and make the museum an inviting place for
Yeah.
visitors who might not have ever come on site? Awesome. What about A for alternatives to using? Yes,
Yeah.
having
Absolutely.
alternatives. That could be an A as well for that as well, no doubt. Alternatives for using, no doubt. Also, we've seen shifts in policies in policies around hotels.
Mhm.
About noise policies, alcohol removed from large parties, and room rental fees. And we're seeing that a lot now with what's that thing called Airbnb. They're
Yeah.
doing some policies around partnering with coalitions and members to make sure that they're doing stuff collectively to impact that change of that as well. Here's the types of outcomes that have result from some awesome things that have done in a very positive way. We've seen fewer outlets selling to underage populations. We've seen fewer 18 to 20-year-olds providing younger teens through a strong advocacy and access and availability. They're not doing that no more. We've seen drinking trends go down from 18 to 20-year-olds, and we've seen DUI and disorderly conduct arrests down because less are drinking and more are not having disorderly conduct because they're drunk. So we're seeing that because people are getting involved, and we're seeing you will see these types of results of outcomes. Remember, outcomes is changes in knowledge, changes in attitude, or changes in behavior. That's good prevention work. So you set priorities by the level of public support. If you're going to set policy priorities, if you want people to help you make change about access and availability, It's really around how what's the level of the community support around, what's the norm around that community support, what does the research say about it, because you got to always have that data to help people understand the importance of why this is important as a change. And you ultimately, you got to define the problem. You got to define the problem. Okay. So now it's time, we're sitting around the campfire, and what do you all think the M is for? Any thoughts about what the M stands for?
Let's
And
see
you,
what we get in the chat for M. Measurement,
hey, measurements. Scott, anybody else? Hey, y'all with me out there? All 30.
morality,
Morality. Hey, Julia. Come on, I know it's 31 of y'all out there.
mobility.
Mobility. Thank you, James.
Ooh, we're on fire here.
Mildred.
Meaning,
Yes, meetings. Thank you, Mildred, for your engagement.
messaging.
Oh,
Oh, look at Mother Elkins
Mama
saying,
Elkins probably nailed it.
yeah, Mama Elkins she's coming real warm on that one. Let me show y'all why I say that about Mama Elkins is what she said. It's about media and communication. It's about
Mm,
the message. You're right, Mother Elkins. You are correct. Thank you. So it's really about the messaging. In really good environmental strategy approach and going to camp, the M is about media, marketing, and messaging. It's about communicating. It's about getting the information out. It's about strategies that can help change and reinforce those community norms. Right? So we use the positive side of media to help reflect the community norm. When I watch Planet Youth's wonderful positive media communication about today's training, it's a great positive media message. Come out, see this. Hey, we're gonna talk about you. We're gonna want you here. It was real positive, Scott and the coalition members. I'm so proud of that. That's an example of what
yeah.
we talk about. Okay, so there's several types of media strategy. Okay, that we want to leave you all with today. There's that understanding of what. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong here? I gotta reduce something. It's that understanding of media literacy. It's that understanding of media advocacy. And Minu talked a lot about social marketing that a lot of the kids don't use. So sometimes we call that, in showing that, we call that social marketing campaigns. Okay, to show that 95% of the kids don't really smoke marijuana, but everybody think everybody does it, but really it doesn't. And so creating a social marketing campaign is one of the greatest things about it. And it's having a social media campaign that you heard from Carlos earlier, the importance of using media, social media in his training that he did for you all really has an impact on a good prevention strategy of marketing and messaging, or M in the camp. Okay. When we talk about media literacy, we talk about the essence of media literacy. I'll leave it this quick and dry point, quick and point to you, quick and easy point to you. It's really about knowing what your audience is looking for, knowing what you're going to say. So really being selective and critical about what you see. Okay, you'll know what the message is trying to tell you. What we need to learn more about is the media. We need to become more literal on the messaging that people are trying to have us do. And
Mm,
so how we do it, how we create messages in prevention, we want folks to have literacy about what we're trying to say so they can get it in an easier way. Right. And so media literacy is an important strategy to help people make informed choices and really helps you evaluate that media's impact. You know, we know MTV, BET, and now all the other social networks and that social media outlets that we see, you know, from Google to all the ones Carlos talked about when he did his training, Instagram, Snapchat. There's so many ways that people get messages to us. And yep, very well said. How to deconstruct the message and the tools they're using. Very well said. Well said, Scott. That's what media literacy is really about. It's really about understanding and making that change. Look at the next slide, Scott. How ironic. Deconstructing that message. You know, who is the author and what is the purpose? What techniques are really used to attract your attention, right? So what lifestyles and values and points of view are they representing? What might different people interpret that message differently? And then the real question is, who's emitted from the message? What is that telling you? So
Mhm.
that's what we talk about when we talk about literacy. Then we talk about media advocacy. That's the strategic use of using your media to advance the positive social policy initiative that you want to see change. So advocate using media advocacy is really what those specific tools are, what advocating for social change is about. That's really social media usage. And then there's social marketing, applying marketing techniques to social issues in order to create a behavior change. And that is, here's one idea is that's consumer driven. The target group is the focus for all steps of social marketing campaigns. I mean, your example about knowing that there's several ways that people are doing positive things. Now, there's this one marketing thing is, I think of the one that says, we are the one. No, it's where it's a tobacco one. It was just on the tip of my head and I just forgot it already. It's the one that where join the force of one or something like that. I forgot what it's called, but it's a tobacco social marketing campaign. You know, it's a way of getting people to say you should be involved with us. You should be a part with us. But when you talk about social marketing campaigns, it's the four P's as anything in marketing, right? It's all about those four P's. It's all about product. What's the product? What are you trying? What's the goal of behavior you like to see change? What's the price? What people must give up in order to receive the benefits of doing what they say they're going to do, right? What's going to be that price for me to give up tobacco smoking and using marijuana? What's the price? What's the benefit? The promotion of it, how you promote it, how you get the as Mother Elkins say, how you get the message out, how you get that message out to persuade people to accept the price of why you should make that change. And then what the place is, what's going to be the communication channel? How you going to what you're going to use to make substantive change around this whole issue as it relates to that. So that's what the four P's of social marketing is, and that's what it's really about. Take a look at this, you all. Take a look at that. What's the product? What's the goal? What's the goal of this campaign? Take a real look at that. It's hard to see the little bitty writing, but I know it's difficult, but it says on there, it's, they're going to pull on you. Some people in one direction, others in the others, and some in a direction that aren't right for you. It says they're going to pull on you. That's what it says. Some people in one direction, the others in another, and some in directions that aren't right for you. So after a while, what would all that pulling do to you? So what do you think the focus of this ad is about? Oh yeah, that was the name of it, Minu. It's called Above the Influence. Have you ever heard Above the
Ah,
Influence?
yes.
That's a social marketing campaign. It's
Very
Above the
effective.
Influence, very effective. So what's the product? What's the product? What's the goal? What we saying in the chat? What's the price? Yes, that's right, Julia. It's this about it's about tobacco and drugs. Any kind of thing you think about is relates to behavior. The focus, what's the focus of what's the price they she's asking you to say? Everybody gonna be pulling at you. It's about peer pressure. Are you with the prices? Are you willing to give up peer pressure? You've been hanging with the friends that don't do it. How you going to promote this? How you going to get the message out that, as people pull you want to go in your direction, right? And then we get to use certain communication channels. Maybe we use billboards. Maybe we use Snapchat. Maybe we use Instagram. Maybe we look at all the different places that we want to put this in, right?
God said, looks exhausting.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? She just pulled everywhere to get the information out. So we know that effective media message is so important, but we know any good ones are based on fact, no matter how you look at it, and they focus on immediate consequences. They always state the desired behavior and what the benefit's going to be. So when you put those media messages out, base it on fact, focus on what the immediate consequences will be. If you do this, this might happen. Use positive, underline, positive, emotional appeals. Or you can even use humor.
Tracy, I like to say just a couple of things to get you guys to think. You
Hmm.
ever notice if you're ordering something off of Amazon and you can't get through, what pops up? Does
I can,
anybody know?
I can tell you, I don't know Amazon. I never ordered on Amazon, so
Yeah,
that's a
well,
new
what
thing.
pops up is
Like,
the cutest little animal. It's the
Really?
cute little animal that says, uh-oh, or oops, we're having problems right now. Yes, right, Mildred. A pet image. Why do you think they use pet images instead of just a
That's
text that
interesting.
says, sorry, we're experiencing delays. They always use a cute little pet image, right? So it's because images matter, right?
Oh,
The
okay.
image that you put in your message. When I looked at the video that you guys did earlier, the promotional video, the images were positive. The planet spinning around in the back, it had a message. The people that were in the video, they were wearing masks. That tells me that they're competent. There was a diverse age range of individuals. There is thought that was put into what you did. It didn't happen by mistake, and it doesn't happen by mistake in this game either, folks.
Good deal. And they appeal to good effective media appeal to logic and reason, like you said, Minu.
Hmm.
And it shows a desired behavior, right? Take a look at this one, you all. It says the easiest place for kids to get beer is right next to the milk.
Mm.
That's what it says there. It says take stock of your supply, keep alcohol out of the hands of kids. So who's the focus? What's the product? What's the price? You should always be asking yourself these questions when you're looking at media messages. What's the promotion? What's the place? Okay. So understanding this is really important to how you talk about message and media and marketing. Here's another one. You know, says here, it says there's only one thing worse than getting hit by a drunk driver, getting hit without your seatbelt on. Cut the risk of fatal injury in half by just what? Buckling up. What's the focus for these? What's the product? What's the price? What's the promotion? And what's the place? Always asking these questions as you go out getting information to your constituency as it relates to the M part of camp, the message.
Scott said on using facts, if they find a small untruth in the message, they will toss the whole message. And that's right, and you have to realize that, right, we're in the age of social media and internet. So folks, do fact check. You better have your
Yes, they do.
facts correct.
Yes, they do. And I like what
And
Mother
listen,
Elkin,
credible source.
that's
Listen,
right.
credible source.
Credible. What did Mother Elkin say? I like what she said. Mask it or something.
Or casket. Whoa.
That's the message right there, I think, for the Planet Youth Coalition. Mask it or casket. Thank you, Mother Elkins. That was awesome. That was awesome. But always talking about what the message is, right? So, Minu, are you ready for this one?
Okay, let's go. Uh-oh, what's happening here? Oh, shoot. Boo. Scare tactics, do they really work? OMG. So I'll just tell you, right? I am part of Gen X, and
Uh-huh.
they thought that scare tactics were gonna work on us. What is that? You using fear or disgust for the purpose of improved welfare. Why? To try to scare health into us. The rationale is that it makes people see the negative effects, which will cause positive behavior change. Well, the reality check. Good intentions don't always equal good science, and so we know that scare tactics don't work. They just
Okay.
don't get it. They're actually enticing, and we really become desensitized to those things
That's
because
right. That's right.
of media, right?
That's right. That's right.
Fried egg. This is your egg on drugs. Right, right. That's what
Right, right.
and people would just toss up the bottle and drink and say, "This is your eggs on drugs."
Right, right.
All right, next. So, what are social norms? Norms, basic orientations concerning the rightness or wrongness, acceptability or unacceptability, and or deviance of specific behaviors for a specific group of individuals. So that's one definition. The
Definition.
social
Yes.
norm theory states that our behavior is influenced by incorrect perceptions of how other members of our social groups think and act. So when we were talking about the social norming campaigns earlier, right? It's important because science says, if the perception is everybody does this, then use or actions towards that go in that direction. If the perception is nobody does that, we think about COVID vaccines and how we're trying to get people to push to get the vaccine, social media norming what the messages are coming out, the facts, people's personal protests about it, more and more people going to get it. That is changing the norm about how people are acting towards
Yep.
wearing masks,
Yep.
getting the vaccination, and so forth. So here's
Yep.
some information for you. You can go to that link. If you want to make sure your norms promote healthy behavior, that they focus on changing perceptions of how many peers are engaged in substance abuse. This goes back to using your data. If you look at your data, right, if it says 27% of youth engaged in drinking, you're going to flip that when you go to create your social media message, right? And
Right.
you're going to talk about the percentage of people of youth that don't drink,
Right.
right? Messages aren't supposed to be preachy, but they're supposed to be based in fact, and you want to keep them positive. Assumes that correcting misperceptions about actual rates will decrease use because people want to be a part of the crowd, and that's the truth, right?
Yep. Yep.
um, if you've ever participated in social experiment, I know I had to do it in college and I've
Me
had
too.
other kids do it, right? You have somebody get on the elevator and they're turned the wrong way when the door opens, or you got three people in the elevator, and when the door opens for the next person to get in, they're all turned the wrong way, facing the wall instead of facing out. What do you think happens?
Right. Right.
In a crowd, when people start to run, and they don't have a reason why, but you see a bunch of people running, what naturally happens?
Everybody runs.
Everybody runs. So you this has research based outcomes that document the effectiveness in reducing substance use or illicit drugs. So as Scott talked about earlier, right? Prevention is prevention is prevention. So you can take this information and adopt it to other areas and things that you're doing, right?
And this site is called make the most of us.org, is a site that really talks about social norm marketing that you should look at. We just give you a reference, okay? Oops,
Next
sorry.
slide.
Yeah. Oh, Tracy, come on.
Are you stuck?
I'm stuck. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So perceived versus actual norm. So those are two different things. There's a perception of what it is, and then there's what's actually going on. We are frequently influenced by what we think our peers believe or do. So Scott and Daniel, you guys know that you are required to collect 4 core measure data, right, for your DFC. And in that they're looking at perception, right? You're measuring perception is for a reason. And then misguided perceptions lead to misguided reality. So it's the work of the coalition to make sure that you are on target and that you share that message in one of those strategies or targeted prevention environmental strategies that we talked about. By presenting correct information about peer groups norms, individuals are given permission to act consistently with their underlying values and beliefs. Now, can you guys think of an example of that in your
Any,
everyday?
anybody. Start typing on the chat. Examples of everyday use. Presenting correct information about individuals and giving permission to act consistently with their underlying values.
Let me see. I see fingers going.
Me too. It's- Are y'all out there? I want to make sure y'all awake. I
Most
know y'all.
youth think more youth use
And
than
they actually,
actually
yeah,
do.
that's so true.
Yep. And we also know what else. Yeah, most youth think it, but I did some research, and it may not be truth for Delaware, but I noticed the reasons why parents think youth engage in drug use is very different from the reason why youth say that they engage in drug use. So
Yes.
yeah, what I saw was, you think, oh, it's peer pressure and that it's because their friends do it, you know, maybe, but you need to find out if that's the truth, right? And the what youth were saying was that the reason why they were using was because of stress and inability to cope. So, when you're thinking about prevention, right, it's about understanding the community, the subcultures and sub uh, populations within the community, letting them be at the table to have a voice, right?
Yep.
That's why you have a youth coalition. This DFC is geared towards ages 11 to 18. How ridiculous would it be, to plan out all the activities for youth and not have the youth voice there at the table? Oh, I'm seeing stuff going
Me
now.
too. It's coming now.
Oh, yes. Stories
Yes.
in the news about random acts of kindness. Yes. I had folks pay for my food, and I ended up paying for people's food. And
And I like what Adam said.
yeah.
The perception that youth use because of the lyrics in the music they listen to. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
that in a few minutes. And
Yeah.
also the perception that youth don't care. There's that perception that young folks just don't, and they do care.
They do
You know,
care.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's that perception. Awesome.
Adjudicated youth I work with often believe that involvement in the justice system is common for
Isn't that
all.
amazing?
Yeah, yes. Recently I had a talk with my sons. I have four sons that have 27-year-old twins. I have a 29-year-old and a 21-year-old. And I asked them because I do these talks all the time and trainings, and I asked them what they thought the average life expectancy was for Black men. And they told me 20, they were all like in 20, 25. That is not the life expectancy, right? The life
Yeah,
expectancy is like 72. And when I
yeah,
told them that, they didn't believe me. So I had to show them the facts,
yeah,
but that lets you know, like, if the perception is something like that, then how does that shape a person's uh thoughts about planning for the future, about setting long-term goals,
yeah,
about, retirement and savings
yeah,
and all of that stuff. So yes, if that's all that you are around, and I'm talking to Scott, but the group, right? If that is all that you are ever exposed to, that's all that you are around, and we know about the algorithms that occur in the media, then that is your reality. Perception is reality, right?
yeah, yeah. And people think about, I'll tell you this, a lot of it, I call a lot of times, there are what we call abnormal norms. Is that what we think is normal things? A lot of folks have their own thought process, like adjudicated you thinking that is the system, or like your children thought about, hey, we're only going to live to. Those are abnormal. That's their norm. That's their life. That's their perception. They're believing that from the actual norm. And so you see that a lot in a lot of different thinkings and patterns. So yes.
Social
And here,
media campaigns. So using social media to improve reach of health messages, increase access to your content, further participation with audiences, and advance transparency to improve health communication efforts. And I see you guys know how to use social media.
yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
you're on TikTok,
yeah,
but you want to make sure that you're leveraging the different types of social media. And my friend Dr. Sabrina, she's a news anchor, or she is a guest on our regular news station, but she does TikTok. I think she's like with me early 50s maybe, and she does a daily as, affirmation and tips from Dr. Sabrina message, right? So you can do those things. They're free or very low cost, but you want to make sure you're leveraging that.
And
Yes.
the good thing about it is that Carlos did, our colleague Carlos came on and did a
Mhm.
full hour and a half on social media campaigns and how they work in prevention. So you all know that social media is an important part of it, of good prevention strategies.
I just want to acknowledge what Thomas said. He said, yes, but how expansive is one's environment? One's attitudes about life expectancy depends on how far one sees.
Awesome, awesome. And that's why it's so important that you as coalition members help people with the campaigns, telling them that their messages can go farther, that they have more opportunities. That's why the M in CAMP or environmental strategies is so critical. It doesn't have to be all against the negative piece. It can be more the positive piece about, realizing your dreams, understanding the importance of your dream, doing what's really important for you to do. Me knew that thing you did with young people this past summer about, they're able to rap and get music and get their names on
Yeah, the
stuff.
DFC house party. Yeah,
Right. So we need to tell Scott and them about that one day, and they might want to be a part of the DFC house party, which would be
yeah.
I've heard
awesome.
about it.
You
Okay,
did?
good, 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 good. Well, it was started because of Minu. That's how
Yeah,
it all got started nationally. It's
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
DFC house party using social media campaigns to really do that.
yeah.
And that ranged from all kinds of things, from buttons, e-cards, all the things that Carlos talked about before, about blogs and social networking. Using social media to your best fit is really critical. Okay, we're coming down our stretch. We have about 15 minutes, and I want to definitely cover the last two pieces of Camp E, and that is which I think the P stands for. Perception.
Perception.
Okay, Julia. Anybody else? P. You're sitting around a campfire. I should have put them with some marshmallows in their hand. You know, anybody else? Anybody else want to give us a guess? Type in the chat what the P might mean. Potential. Thank you, Hayat. Hi, thank you. Thank you. Any others? Because we had community norms, access and availability, media marketing messages. What you got? P, no ideas? Scott?
No idea with a silent P.
Okay, no idea. I like that. I like that. Well, it's really the P is really about policy. It's
Mm.
about policy, you all. And look at this. Here's the policy that a park did. They said, "Attention campers. Here's our policy." They wrote it up on the board. It may be messy, but they made it clear. Attention. Here's our policy. So having policy is really, really important. Rules that govern behavior. We can do the norm stuff. We can do the access and availability, but the biggest bite and the biggest teeth bit and the strength, the carrot, or how they say, the carrot or the stick behind it is policy. Policy helps you really put things in place to have systems and rules in place that impact that.
I call it skin in the game.
Skin in the game. I like that. So policy of environmental strategies of the camp model is really important because rules and regulations that restrict access or change or community norms. Let me give you an example. There's a DFC grantee in the west side of Chicago, and they were having alcohol. You could call a place in a storefront ahead of time, tell them you want a half pint of this and a half pint of that, and you drive up, and not drive up and go through. They drive up and they bring it out to your car with the whole bottle open and the glass, and then you can drive away. They
Mm.
They decided to deal with that access, and that coalition identified what was the existing policies. They called the attorney, state's attorney's office for the city, and they dusted off an old rule called deleterious impact law. And they had created a deleterious impact law after about 1958, 1960, that if there is a landlord or a property owner that is allowing access of illegal substances or illegal ways to sell it, they can be shut down. Today, that owner has decided to get that person out of that store. So that coalition had a victory because they helped look at a policy to have access or change a community norm, which no longer exists. Here's some community-based examples of policy. Look at those. Under drinking laws, DWI or DUI laws, governing the use of placement in cigarette vending machines, prohibits on the location and density of liquor stores. There's all kinds of policy examples at the community level that are critical in terms of making policy change. Okay? Look at these school-based policy examples. Some schools strengthen school penalties for alcohol possession. Some prohibit the consumption of alcohol at all school-related events. Some adopt practices to prevent students from bringing alcohol to school or school-related events. So schools can have prevention policies in place that can do that. Let's take a look at this one. Even universities can have policy and examples, even though 19 and 20-year-old, 18, 19, 20-year-olds are attending, but there still can be policies about certain use of different alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs if you're underage of using it. So they're not even prone to not having it. They can also have some wonderful policy examples of being involved. There's even workplace policy examples. Establish or strengthen policies related to alcohol use, enact policies that restrict use of company vehicles and equipment while under the influence. Responsible beverage service practices. Those are really, really the end thing now. In some states, you don't have that. You can't get some of the federal money that's coming to your state if you're doing responsible, what they call Bassett trainings, to allow trainings to beverage users about how to make sure they're serving responsibly the alcohol that's in place, and restrict underage access to alcohol in the workplace. We even got some family and home-based policies. Isn't that something? Okay. Reduce youth alcohol access to alcohol within the home. Not even keep one of the policies you can as a family is don't keep alcohol in the home or lock it up, or monitor it. There's so many ways that policies in all different settings can really have an impact. But factors that influence policy enactment are really critical. Public opinion, media, leadership. Okay, there's message, grassroots support. You see what happened with policy. We can make changes. Think of what policies have taken place in your state, and what have you seen change because of those policies. Type something in the chat real quick and tell me what that has been. Anything in your state or your community where you're located that has shown some sort of policy that has been enacted, that has been influenced by either public opinion or media coverage or leadership support or grassroots support. Anything.
And somebody said no more plastic. Julia said
Yeah.
no more
Yeah.
plastic
Yeah.
bags. I know when I go out of town, not here, but they use the paper straws, right? The straws are made out of
Right.
paper now,
Right.
not
Right.
plastic.
Yeah. That's the big thing now. That's the big thing.
LGBTQ marriage. All right.
Yeah.
Drop
That's the
off
big
sites
thing.
at police stations for all prescriptions. Yes.
Yes. Yes. That's the big thing.
A
Yeah.
funny quick policy story is that I was not happy about the plastic bag thing personally, even though I understood it environmentally. But the first time I was forced to actually bring a recyclable bag in, I realized how much more I could fit in it, how I could decorate it myself, how I could. And so it was one of those moments where the policy happened first, and then I understood how great the policy was.
Well
And so
said.
I'm thinking that when I'm trying to make these new policies for substance abuse.
Community cleanup events. Yeah.
So Minu, I'll let you take a few of these. And this is our last part of the camp, you all.
All right. This is our E. So we have, a few minutes left, real quick, because we've been playing this guessing game. What does the E stand for? Enforcement, COVID restrictions.
Ooh, enforcement. Okay.
Anything else? Equality. Oh, I
Oh,
love that.
I like that one. That's good.
Education.
Daniel said
All
environment. Okay, let's go.
right, let's hit it, Tracy.
Who had that? Who
Da,
Daniel?
da, da.
Who said enforcement? I think that
That
was
was
Scott.
Julia. Enforcement.
Julia.
What
Who
is a
said?
policy without enforcement? Yeah. So policies without enforcement equal no change, right? Because nobody's enforcing it. People are going to continue to do the same thing. Sobriety,
Yes.
and that's law enforcement and social enforcement, or you know what I mean? This doesn't
Yeah.
have to be law, right?
Right. It
What
just has to be a
I say is law
policy.
in my house. Right? Sobriety
Right.
checkpoints, compliance checks, steps detailed in policy for non-compliance. Right. So
Yes.
what's the skin in the game? What's going to happen if we don't follow these new policies? What if the law is not publicized and the penalties? Increase building inspections, post signs to notify about surveillance in stores, on roadways, citizen police patrols, and so forth. Yeah, you think about the when the speed limit changes, right? Or in my lifetime, the speed limit changed,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Right. Mine too.
people will speed if there aren't any consequences. You got to have signage postage saying what the speed limit is, and checkpoints,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or
The-
it's not gonna happen.
Now these two examples, these next two examples, me knew is really what some examples of policy where, like Baltimore, Maryland, they did it. They prohibit alcohol, tobacco billboards in their school, like I was telling you, Chicago did. So you can't have alcohol, tobacco billboards near schools, and in residential areas. And the other one is back a while back, the San Diego Padres banned carry. They was allowing people to carry in alcohol back then, and they stopped that. So you can't bring it in no more, and you see that disruption in behavior. So I wanted to bring that up. So that's what policy is, and enforcement is so important. So now what we want you to think about is we want you to discuss some successes you've had in using your any environmental strategies as a coalition or as individuals. We want you to just to talk, not discuss it amongst each other, but just type some things in where you've had some. If you thought about now that you know about the Camp E model, what's some things you've had that are successes? What's things that you had as barriers? And then we want you, after this is over with, to go back and create a working definition for yourself of environmental strategies. Okay, because that's critical how you move this forward. Here's some examples of something. If you have a weak or non-existent policy, maybe bars and restaurants or liquor outlets use aggressive promotion to create or target in underage drinking. Here's your strategy. You might want to work to develop or implement and enforce policies that restrict marketing and promotion of alcoholic beverages. Here's another issue. Liquor stores in your community sell alcohol to minors. You might want to work to strengthen law enforcement compliance checks or strengthen the law itself. And Daniel and Scott, I'll make sure you get this PowerPoint so you have it, okay, to send to others, okay? The key is, how will you use environmental strategies? What successes can you predict? And then what are some barriers you perceive? So when you all get back in your circles and begin to look at this, think about these questions. What successes can you predict? What barriers you can think about? So one thing we want you to think about is that this is a way to guided camp action trails. It's really about camp, going to camp. If you want to know about environmental strategies, this is the one direction we would encourage you to take. Here's some resources that we have for you that you can look at that talk about the campaign. It'll be in the PowerPoint for you all to have as well. And there's some other ones as well. So now Minu and I want to open it up for any questions or discussions. And we thank you all for
Yes.
giving us the opportunity to be a part of your afternoon. Minu, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I echo Tracy's comments. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your afternoon today. I know we gave you a lot of information. Hopefully, we gave you some good information and examples and things to think about. Remember, use your logic model. Let data be your guide. Utilize the strategies that Tracy and I have laid out for you, and hopefully that acronym will stick with you. Camp E.
I actually created a quick poll.
Hey,
Um, and basically what this poll is just, we want to know where the group feels your influence might be the most powerful. And so if there should be a poll up there, if people can just vote, pick which part of the camp do you personally feel that you could help influence, establish, or change the most? We're just trying to get a feeling of here. And of course, if you know where I'm going with this, maybe it should have something to do with the committee that you are joining as we move forward. But also we could see where our weaknesses are
Yeah.
as well, and areas that we might need to strengthen. I know some of our policy people aren't on the phone right now,
Okay.
oh
but at about
yeah.
50% voted, we're very media heavy.
Mhm.
We'll just give it a few more minutes. While that's happening, I want to reiterate what Heather just typed in there. Dynamic duo.
Ah,
Uh, Tracy, thank you again for bringing experts and yourself and Minu. Like, so great to finally meet you in person.
You too.
But these trainings are so good that we had 30 people pretty much the entire time until about a minute ago. And that is just, I'm always looking at the numbers and trainings,
okay.
watching them
Okay.
just go down and go down and go down.
Okay.
And to me, it's a good training if everyone stayed in the whole time.
Yes.
Um, if anyone else has any comments or thanks, now would be the time to say it, but we're certainly going to be bringing these people back, no doubt. Thank you, Charles Duncan. Glad you could join us. And Crystal, thank you so much for joining us as well. But I'm going to make sure that Tracy and Minu have a chance to answer any questions. And while we're doing that, we have about 70% of the poll vote. So I'm going to go ahead and show us our results. And it looks like we are tied that we believe we can influence the access and availability in media and marketing. But we need to get some
There
policy.
you go. That shows you right there.
Yeah, I know
Yes.
our representative is not there, but there's our recruiting gap right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So you make sure you get a chance to focus in on that one because that's where true change can happen if you want to see it happening. You want to impact that through policy, and you can do it. A lot of coalitions have done it before. The one I gave you an example of, Minu has examples, but they can do it. So thank you all for the opportunity and allowing us to be a part of this. We appreciate you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and be safe and be blessed.
Thank you so much.
See you guys soon.
Thank you. And to everyone in PYC, thank you so much for being part of this community that we're building. I hope that each time we meet, I get more enthusiasm about what's happening. It's
Hey,
becoming
brother
realer and
Tom.
realer.
Hello. Can
Hey,
you hear me?
hey, how you doing, sir? Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you, and you have inspired me. You may know that my prevention is we hope to prevent veteran suicide in
Yes.
Delaware.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So I've been thinking about environmental accessibility of guns
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
because the data show that guns are the principal way that veterans kill themselves.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to take that to my group. We're having a meeting tomorrow night to talk about maybe we should look at environmental concerns
Yes.
regarding the principal way that veterans kill themselves.
That's right.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
use the camp as it
Yeah.
relates to guns.
Yeah, so
You know,
it's
how
very
to deal
helpful.
with community norms, access and availability, you
Exactly.
know, marketing, media messages, and policy, you know.
And,
You
and,
know,
and, and of course, I know it's going to be very complicated because it gets into policing issues.
yes,
Yeah.
It
yes.
gets into personal safety and all kinds of stuff. It's very complicated.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But thank you for
But maybe,
joining.
Tom, some of those home environmental rules could be a part of it, where even though policy might not change, if there was a campaign to have people who were living with veterans to know about the similar to hiding or keeping alcohol in a place,
Yeah.
you know, that just have your gun with someone that you would need to
Yeah.
ask permission to use or something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
the connection to veterans in regards to substance abuse is that a lot of veterans self-medicate to deal with PTSD.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so much right. It's good to see you. Good to see Brother Tom McDonough.
Yeah, thank
As
you.
always, both of you, both times. Good to see you. Thank you all for the opportunity. Thanks, Scott. Be
Thank
well,
you,
be
Tracy.
blessed, and we'll see you. Thanks, Minu.
All
Thanks so
right.
much,
Thank
Manu.
you,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
All right. All right. Yeah,
Thanks,
Daniel,
everyone.
we'll call.
Awesome training.